at 6 o'clock, right on the money.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our city council meeting of June 2025. I would like to ask Councilmember Schaefer to lead us in the pledge.
Thank you, Mayor. Attention, and your heart. Follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Could the clerk please call roll?
Councilmember Middleton,
Present.
Councilmember Nelson,
Present.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Here.
Vice Mayor Lopez Taft,
Here.
and Mayor Karpinski Costa.
Present. Could you read the video statement, please?
This meeting of the Citrus Heights City Council is live and recorded with closed captioning. It is cablecast on Metro Cable Channel 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast and DirecTV Uverse cable systems. It is also live streamed at citrusheights.net. Tonight's meeting replays on Monday, June 30th at 9 a.m. on Metro Cable Channel 14. And this meeting can also be viewed on the city's YouTube channel.
Next item, please.
Next item is approval of agenda.
Move approval.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next item, please.
Next item is presentation number 4, presentation by the Citrus Heights Police Department on the illegal fireworks enforcement plan.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Commander Mike Wells with the Police Department presenting this year's strategy related to illegal fireworks. Our goal is to protect our community and make sure everyone enjoys the holiday safely. However, historically, the 3rd and the 4th of July are routinely 2 of the busiest days of the year for our department. Over the past 2 years, our fireworks calls on the 3rd and the 4th account for approximately 30% of our calls for service. When you look specifically at the 4th, fireworks calls increased to an average of 46% of our total call volume. That equates to approximately 175 calls for service. With council support, earlier this year, we amended the municipal code associated with illegal fireworks. The amendments included increased fines, the ability to cite on a per-device basis, and modified the social host ordinance to include property under the host's apparent control. Offenders will face citations or fines, and in some cases, criminal charges. This year's strategy focuses on education and enforcement. For education, the police department sent warning letters to approximately 100 residents that over the last 2 years had been reported as a source of illegal fireworks. The warning letters highlighted that new fees and fines were in place and encouraged residents not to engage in the use of illegal fireworks. We have also increased our social media presence, hoping to reduce the use of illegal fireworks. Our messaging has been consistent with our partners in the region. Keep it safe, keep it legal. We have encouraged the public to report illegal fireworks through the SeeClickFix app. Residents can report illegal fireworks and remain anonymous, or they can attest to a violation and a citation will be issued. Regarding enforcement, we have increased police officers patrolling neighborhoods, especially during peak times on the 3rd and the 4th of July. We will also have animal control officers on duty for any animal-related issues or concerns. We will be utilizing several of our unmanned aerial systems, often referred to as drones, to proactively look for illegal fireworks violations. We were able to study other agencies' best practices, which will improve our drone deployment strategies. The drone should be able to pinpoint the location responsible for the illegal fireworks, and that resident will receive a social host ordinance citation. We will also have code enforcement officers working at the call center to assist dispatch with triaging fireworks calls. This additional staff will allow us more time to gather information from reporting parties and determine if they are interested in attesting to the violation. This additional staff will also provide improved customer service for those reporting illegal fireworks. Instead of using illegal fireworks, we encourage everyone to attend public, professionally run fireworks shows, which are safer, legal, and designed with community enjoyment in mind. For example, we have the Citrus Heights Stars and Stripe event just down the street this Saturday, and we encourage everybody to attend this amazing fireworks show. Celebrations should bring people together, not end in tragedy. Let's work as a community to keep our neighborhoods safe. If you see something dangerous, please say something. With that, I'm going to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you so much, Commander Wells. Questions? 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 I have a question. So besides doing C-Click Fix, we can call the non-emergency number, my understanding is. And then I also understand that we're sending out some code enforcement officers, yes? Is that-
Yes, well, so we have the code enforcement officers that are going to be working inside the station, helping with dispatch. Dispatch is, inundated with a lot of calls, and they kind of have to work through those very quickly. The code enforcement officers will have the ability to call those folks back, get additional information, and we can help deploy our resources out in the field better once we get that information, where the really big parties or the big problems are, and that's how we'll send out the resources.
Fantastic. I also, because Sergeant Jones came to our Area 10 meeting and said also that if the public takes video, any of the video that you get can sometimes help locate the source. So,
Absolutely, no different than our drone video that we'll have overhead. Any supporting evidence will absolutely help
but
with the
don't
violation.
endanger yourself.
Absolutely, don't put yourself at risk. If you can do so safely, we'll take the evidence.
So one last question. So we know that because we adopted the 1,000 per firework fine per item. What, then the social host, even though he has several going out there at the one time, he just gets the one fine?
Correct, for the first offense, it'll be the $1,000 fine for hosting
Even
it.
though he has several projectiles?
Correct, it's a one-time thing, and then obviously that would compound next year, or if they did it the next night even, but.
Plus he's on your radar.
Exactly.
Okay.
The hope is that that one-time fee or fine will prevent them from wanting to do that in the future.
Well, I look forward to seeing our results this year of our increased vigilance and see what happens. And the public is welcome to participate in this. This is fun, actually, to see if our city can quiet down on, I mean, it should be celebrated, but it should be celebrated within the law.
Agreed. Lieutenant Lewis and our department's spearheading this, putting together the operations plan. We hope it will be successful, and hopefully, again, a safe 4th of July year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Does anybody want to make a comment and say yay, yay, yay? Yeah? No? Okay.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
You
Thank
want
you,
to
ma'am.
make a comment, don't you?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item is public comment, and if you wish to address the council during the meeting, please fill out a speaker sheet and give it to myself, the city clerk. When you're called upon to speak, step forward to the podium and state your name for the record. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes each, and the mayor has the discretion to adjust the allotted time. There is a countdown display that will flash red at the end of the allotted time. Consistent with the Brown Act, the council is prohibited from engaging in a discussion or taking action on any item not appearing on the agenda. And this evening, Mayor, I have 2 speaker cards for the public comment section, and the first is Kathy Morris.
They ought to make podiums smaller for small people. Can you reach the,
I could get a stool.
you're adorable.
Thank you. Mayor, council people, nice to see you. I am Kathy Morris with almost no voice. Sorry about that. I do happen to currently be president of REACH. That's been about 3 months now. I've been on the REACH board about 3 years. And I've been active in my neighborhood association about 10 years. So I am not speaking on behalf of REACH or any neighborhood. I'm speaking for me, okay? I have been involved in the area for quite a while on various and sundry different levels. I was president of my area for a while. And what I'm talking about is an issue that was approved last meeting at the city council, and it came out kind of surprising to most of us in the area. We've not gotten together and met about it. We haven't talked about it collectively, so as I say, I'm speaking on my behalf. The issue is the funding for the neighborhood areas, and I presume also funding for REACH. I have not heard of any problems that anyone has had with the funding. If you as a city council or anyone else is concerned about the way we spend our monies, either we as REACH or we as a neighborhood, tell us. We'd be more than happy to look into it. If you don't like the way we're spending the money or not spending the money, we'd be happy to investigate it. Is that why this all came about? I don't know. As you well know, the neighborhood areas were created about when the city was created, so it's been a couple of decades. And they were created because all that time ago, there was no social media. The way people got things done was by talking to each other. What a concept, to talk to each other. So now, of course, there's all kinds of social media. But in my opinion, quite frankly, the most effective way to get things done is to talk to each other. And that's what the neighborhoods are all about. Neighborhood groups get together, they discuss issues, they work on things that are problems. There's been some changes in the neighborhood. I mean, like, one of the neighborhoods had to get a new president because their president disappeared and came to the city council, okay? So they did, and they've reformed. Then other neighborhoods have been reforming for various and sundry other reasons. Some of the neighborhoods felt, excuse me, that they could get more done by being more effective by combining and joining with another neighborhood. Okay, that's their choice, right? No one forced them to do it. Reach doesn't have the authority to say you can do this or you can't do this. The neighborhoods have the authority to do that. They're the ones that make the choices. Now, as I say, we've had some changes in the neighborhoods. Most of them are getting stronger. They're being pretty effective. Some of them are still in the shake-up, getting a settled stage. Good. That means that they're really caring and they're really trying. We Reach just had an executive committee meeting last week, actually, for the purpose of creating a budget to propose to the Reach Board. It's a discussion period, that's what it is. And, you know, that's what budgets are all about, and that's what we're going to do. Our budget meeting, or our next Reach meeting, is July 7. The neighborhood allocation is $500. My goodness, that's a whole lot. Yeah, right. Okay. It was interesting to hear the budget presentation was millions of dollars. The neighborhood allocation is $500. Reach's is $5,000. And speaking of Reach's $5,000, when we're looking at the budget, nearly $4,000 of that $5,000 is insurance, liability insurance. So now we just got the rules for to apply. The neighborhood's going to apply for their monies. And it says very interesting things like have to describe how the money is going to be spent. You know, I'm sure you've been involved in the neighborhoods long enough to know that in fact, some of the neighborhoods, they do what needs to be done. And maybe it's a short notice. Maybe something comes up, it's a problem, and then they'll go take care of it. Reach is $5,000, $4,000 of it goes to insurance. If the city is taking over the authority to look at the allocation before the neighborhood gets money, does that mean then the city is going to take over the responsibility for them? And therefore the liability for it? I would sincerely request this issue be reconsidered and this time be transparent with the neighborhoods and Reach involved in discussions. Thank you.
Our next speaker is David B. Shelton.
My name is David B. Shelton. I wanted to share with you an update on the Citrus Heights Ordinance 2025-001 fireworks. I have a copy of the law, which was modified and effective the end of May 2025. I have a copy of the Citrus Heights Commander Wells letter dated March 5th, 2025 to Chief of Police on fireworks analysis. There is a paragraph 4 on the importance of click it and fix it for fireworks incidents, and then a paragraph 5 for the use of drones near mainly the casino area in the northwest area of Citrus Heights where the incidents are very high, and then the use of drones by roving individuals. The fine has been increased to $1,000 per firework taken or used. I won't go into the operation for what Commander Wells covered because I just was going to quote from his letter and he quoted from his letter. So extensive details about the fireworks activity is needed. We need photos, we need phone calls, cell calls. In fact, we can even look to recycle cans put out for waste collection as source of evidence of people who have fireworks because when they clean it up, they put it in their recycle bin. And that's a good source for evidence. The police department expects us, the residents, with extensive new information required by the fines of $750 to up to $2,500 per day as a public nuisance has been included in the ordinance. So now you can be declared a public nuisance. The police department will have records of our recorded telephone calls. Let me say that again. The police department will have recorded telephone calls of our calls. A responsible person concept has been inserted into the law. This individual gets off on the first offense. Basically, it's a free pass, a slap on the hand. He'll be out before he even goes to jail. That's what a misdemeanor is, and it's clearly stated in the law. It's a misdemeanor. A second offense does significant impact occur. That's after the New Year's Eve, Wednesday, December the 31st. For the second offense, that's what we should look for, because the 4th of July, the second offense will be December the 31st, New Year's. And I hope people don't shoot off guns. It's okay to shoot the gun into the ground, but don't shoot it in the air, because when you shoot it in the air, it comes back down. And if it comes into my head, I'm dead, and I don't want that to happen to me or anybody else. We should call code enforcement about fireworks and not click it and fix it. For the code enforcement people to gather the information, they're effective at doing that. You don't want your neighbor mad at you for saying something. It's better to have them mad at code enforcement. That's their job, and they're very effective. I've shown over the last year that they're very, very effective. It's only 9 days until the 4th of July. Let's hope for a safe and sane 4th of July with no big problems. We will know by the July 9th council meeting what occurred and what was the response. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Are there any more speakers?
I do not have any other speaker sheets.
Then we'll have the next item, please.
The next item is comments by council members and regional board updates.
Councilmember Middleton, I'm going to start at your end this time.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Let's go backwards in time here. June 25th, we had Vice Mayor and I had a meeting with the Metro Fire, and these meetings, we focus on key initiative, key points. One of the things we discussed at length was fireworks. And we also talked about some data sets, and one of the interesting things that came out of that was that the city has seen a 3% decrease in calls for homeless services, and I think that's really to do with the impact of the folks here in City Hall making sure that, folks are using the app. We're having our Citrus Heights Cares campaign, really pulling that all together. We also covered the replacement of Station 23. Back in November, the voters approved Measure O, which was about $160 million, I believe, a bond to replace aging fire infrastructure. And one of those replacements will be Station 23, so really excited to see us get an upgrade in our fire services here. On June 13th, I had a Sacramento Metro Cable Television Commission meeting, and that meeting really focused heavily on budget adjustments due to declining franchise revenue and the importance of continuing to try to find a way to fund community access channels and public education and our government PEG programs, which, that funding actually helps us to broadcast live these meetings. It's looking kind of dire, so we formed an ad hoc committee, a subcommittee to address these budget priorities, which I volunteered to sit on to make sure that we can actually make sure that we have a good understanding of what's going on and prioritize making sure that our community has access to seeing their council meetings and not have to actually physically be here in person. And that is my update.
First of all, I want to say good for you for being volunteering on that subcommittee, because cable is losing customers. I have a question, though, and I just found this as we was sitting in the back waiting for our meeting to start, and it was an email we all got from the fire district saying that their fees were increasing, but there was no attachment of what their fees are. Do you think that we can ask for a copy of their fee schedule and see what, is that something that, maybe the 2x2 committee could go over, I don't know what they're talking, they said it's a 1% increase in what? It come into your house to put out your fire, or what are they increasing? Ambulance service, or, it didn't have a list.
Yeah, we'll make sure that we distribute that to the council.
Because did y'all get the email that we're getting an increase? It came June 14th, I think.
Yeah, so if there was a
Ended up
missing
in my-
attachment or something of that nature, we'll make sure that the council has that
It
information.
ended up in my spam box, and so today I was going through spam.
I know we have our partner agency, Sac Metro Fire members in the audience, and I'm sure that they'll relay that message and we can get that information back to the council.
6/13 it came. It said updated fee ordinance, whatever their fees are. Okay. Anyways, thank you, Portia. Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have the STA meeting to report on. This took place the day after the last council meeting on June 12th. We, at the STA meeting, received the first of 3 presentations on the vehicle miles traveled requirements for CEQA and new transportation projects. So I will keep you updated on the following presentations. It's pretty dense subject matter, and I have meetings set with our Director of General Services to understand it better. So that concludes my report.
Did
but
they
I-
talk about 1, 2, 2, 3?
No,
Okay. well,
yeah. I did want to say, I hope everybody has a happy 4th of July. I won't actually be in town for the Stars and Stripes event. I will be in New England. So I will miss you all, and I'm sure it'll be great.
It's hot there now. They have
Yeah.
a heat wave.
Yeah.
Councilmember Schaefer.
Well, thank you, Mayor. So, we had our meeting on June 11th. So on the 12th, the very next day, I had a SACOG meeting that was, this particular one, a few times a year, SACOG meets offsite. This particular, meeting, we had a tour of Arden Arcade, and there was a movement for Arden Arcade to, become their own city. And that's in Rich Desmond's District 3. And he initially was opposed to Arden Arcade incorporating, and he's now sort of switched that, and it really encourages Arden Arcade to incorporate as a city. It was a very interesting tour that he talked about some of the paving issues that the county is facing, and many of the streets have never been repaved. They've been without paving for 76 years.
My.
Now, I don't know that any of our streets are that old, but some of them are, I don't think my street has ever been repaved, or resurfaced in any way, shape, or form. So it was really comforting to sort of know that we're not alone. We're all kind of in the same boat here, so, and after that, we went over and toured the new Safe Stay facility that's over on North Watt Avenue, just before you get to the McClellan Air Force Base. Really nice facility, and it is a referral base. So if you go to our navigator and say that you want to get into housing, they provide a referral, and we can, on this particular property, we can house 350 unhoused people with showers and beds and real, the cabins that they will be housed in are actually in a neighborhood. They also have parking for someone who is living in their car, safe parking there. There's certainly rules. They can take pets onto the property if it becomes necessary, and as long as they can handle them in an orderly fashion. It's just really a very expensive facility, $65 million to build. And if anybody who's lived here a really long time, it's in the old Price Club building that was eventually the predecessor to Costco. So it's 130,000 square foot building. They will have wraparound services there where they'll have counseling, they'll have all of the ability to really effectively. Now, this is, the people that are in the house really have to choose to get help. That's always the challenge. So at least a facility will be there. This is not their only safe day. This is just the newer one, because they have one that's already in the same area. They have one down off of Stockton Boulevard. There are a number of them operated within the region to house our homeless, to help our homeless community. And I was at a meeting, and I'm going to mention that meeting in a minute, but they said, well, what are we going to do in Citrus Heights? Are we going to have a facility here in Citrus Heights? And I said, well, we don't get funding from the county. We don't get funding at all to house homeless people. That is, the county gets a significant amount of our property tax, and that's their responsibility to handle the social services side of it. So the answer to that question is, I don't see us doing anything with a homeless facility here. It's much, even though they're very expensive, this one costs $65 million to build, and it's going to cost $80 a night per resident to maintain. And that's very expensive. And so, but at least we get the economy of scale. We can house 350 people in that one area rather than having us say, hey, let's do 60 people here. That would be really prohibitively expensive. And again, it's not our responsibility. So, and that meeting came up at I attended the Sunrise Marketplace meeting. And that was a great meeting. We talked about trying to do an event here locally. They had about $90,000 that they were looking to spend. We talked about a number of things. I kind of threw out maybe a business expo. They're kind of considering that on how they're going to spend those funds. But I thought it was a good meeting overall. So, and then after that meeting, I went over and visited, because we were talking about this, I went over and visited the 19 businesses that still exist and that are still open in the mall. I didn't even realize that there was a furniture store that occupies about 4,000 square feet in there, and it's really nice furniture, really nice stuff in there. I talked to several of the business owners there, and certainly they have big concerns about what's going to happen with their mall and what they're doing. All I told them is I'm kind of thinking some kind of contingency plan. I don't know what that looks like right now, but hopefully we'll come up with some kind of plan to keep those businesses here in Citrus Heights and keep them thriving. Actually, and a lot of them are doing the perfume business that is in there. I think it's Luxe Perfumes, operated by Kevin Cadill. I think I said that name right. Really nice facility in there, and he was really busy. I was really surprised, and I kind of wanted to go in there and talk to him, but he was busy with customers, and that's a really good thing to see. So if you need some perfume, you need some cologne,
Furniture.
or furniture, or toys. There's a really cool toy store in the mall. There's a lot of things in the mall that are still doing fairly well. But that's certainly something we want to look at and see what we can do. And then on the 17th, I had the chamber luncheon where Melissa Bassinelli, superintendent of San Juan Unified Schools, was the guest speaker there, and she talked about some of the updates that the school board is doing. And then on the 20th, I had a SACOG mega region meeting, and this is a mega region working group where we talk with, it's 12 different counties, going all the way down into San Francisco, including Costa Costa, Sacramento, a very big region where we can coordinate many things. Right now, the coordination is for toll roads, toll lanes. So the toll lanes in the Bay Area, their costs are going up again, so they're going to do a rate increase for toll lanes. We don't have any toll lanes here. The first one is slated to be going across a Yellow Causeway, and that's going to be implemented into 2028 before that's the very
Just
first.
a lane or the whole road?
It's going to be a lane on each side, but it'll be a toll.
So
You-
somebody
you
that
can-
can go fast, kind of like a rapid?
You can go fast, you can, and transit, buses can use it. And just a little FYI, that projection is that the high occupancy lanes will, in September of this year, even if you have an electric vehicle, which I own one, you will not be allowed to use your electric vehicle in a high occupancy lane anymore.
Unless you got high occupancy.
Unless you have more than one person. Right now, if I was driving and I have an electric vehicle, I can use that lane legally, but after September, that is no more. So I do want to speak briefly about the neighborhoods. I came from, in 2007, when I lived in Citrus Heights many years. When I moved to my current home in Citrus Heights in 2007, I went to our first neighborhood meeting, and that's where I got involved. I joined the board, I became vice president, I became president, I sat on the REACH board, I was vice president of REACH. So I have a lot of, a deep passion for this community and in our neighborhoods in general. And so I just want to make that clear that this thing is not about, for me anyway, this thing is not about worrying about, whether the funding is going to get cut. I certainly would like to see if my own neighborhood, for example, they're not spending their money. And so I'd like to see them spend the money. And if they need to do outreach, but the feedback I got from them was, well, if we want to do a mailer, $500 is enough to do a mailer. So let's open it up to say, if you want to do a mailer, I'm talking about for a specific neighborhood, let's let you apply for a little bit more and you can do a mailer. You can bring new people into the fold. And that's really what this is about. It's about enabling the neighborhoods to bring more people in. So anyhow, that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Good job. I was so fascinated by everything you said. I was like, Vice Mayor Lopez Taft.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I feel like I haven't been here for a very long time, and it's only been one meeting. So I'm going to back up to before the last meeting. On the 4th, I attended City Scoop at San Juan High School. I think that's our kickoff for the City Scoop season. Very exciting to have our high schools host this year. I did an interesting personal field trip on the 5th. I went to the community closet at Mariposa Elementary. And that was such a wonderful visit to see this organization get together and provide shoes for every single one of their students. And that is through a combination of deep discounts that they get from a vendor, and along with some grant money that they got from us. And so I really wanted to see where our dollars and investments are going. And that was quite a delight to visit that school and see how they are making their local school community thrive. On the 19th, as Councilmember Middleton mentioned, we attended the SAC Metro 2x2, where we get together with our community partners and talk about what's going on for the betterment of Citrus Heights and our community. And you heard about all of the information and update there. I also, that morning before this SAC Metro Fire meeting, I went and had a chamber board meeting, because I'm on the board. And we also had a field trip to our Republic Services transfer station in the Sacramento-Rosemont area. And it's a transfer station for organics, all the garbage that comes, and recycling that comes from Citrus Heights. We got to see a few Citrus Heights trucks unload their garbage. It is absolutely amazing how much those singular trucks have as far as square footage of garbage. And we saw them take out the organics, and they have a specific place for that where they filter out all the items that should not be in there, and it turns into fertilizer. And they're continually telling us, please, if you need fertilizer for your yards, this is, rich material, and so please get it. And the cardboard was also separated after you do your separation in your recycling bin, and it was off to another facility to be recycled completely. And so that was really interesting, just to see the life cycle of where our garbage goes. We had a very good tour, and they're very excited about their garbage, as you can tell if you've ever heard recycling. Republic talk about recycling, organics, and garbage. They love the garbage conversation. And those are all the things that I did while I've been gone.
Well, I know Mary Poole always has excitement when she talks about it. Did you forget something?
I forgot something.
Okay, go.
Can I have this first?
Go for it.
I just wanted to recognize, and I really was, I saw this LinkedIn post, and it's for our own Marissa Brown, who just completed the Emergency Communications Academy. And what's funny is, so she has a picture on LinkedIn of her in front of a podium. And it reminded me when I was back in Washington DC. When I was back in Washington DC, I visited the Pentagon, and they had where they had their press room, and I was dressed in a suit and tie, and I got up there and like pointed like I was pointing at somebody in the audience. And it was really kind of funny. So I had to, when I saw this picture of Marissa, I thought, she'd probably get a kick out of seeing me at the, but congratulations. I didn't mean to demean your accomplishment here. That's way a bigger accomplishment than some tourist standing behind a podium at the Pentagon. So congratulations, great job. We're in great hands.
Okay, back to garbage. I think Mary is arranging for the rest of our council members to take a tour of the swill, where it goes and everything else. So we'll get our swill tour. So since the last council meeting, I've done 2 Monday with the mayor. And next Monday, Councilmember Schaefer is going to fill in until 11 a.m. for me, because I'll be at my Safe and Sane booth. And I did go to the mosquito meeting. We got our first positive West Nile mosquito in Yolo County, and we had 1 in Sacramento County. We still haven't had any positive dead birds yet, even though we have gotten a lot of dead birds, but not positive. And we are about to release our, I don't know, is it 40,000? 4,000 boy mosquitoes, males, don't bite. So we released these males that have, they have, I guess it's a bacteria called Wolbachia inside of them. They mate with the native females, and then the eggs don't hatch. So we're trying that system out in South Natomas, where they seem to have a lot of Aedes aegypti, which is our invasive species, the ones that are day biters that we always want to know if you're getting bit in the daytime. Those are the big invasive guys. And Citrus Heights so far has not had any, but these will just get started. They're more of a late season mosquito, so we'll see. But South Natomas has a lot. So because they know the rice fields are there, there's a lot of wet ground. So anyway, we're so far, statewide is less this year than the same time this year last year. So up till so anyways, that's all I just did 1 meeting. I feel like I've been goofing off. So anyways, so we can do the next item.
The next item is consent calendar. We have item 5, which is approval of minutes. Item 6 is the on-call traffic signal and streetlight maintenance services agreement. Item 7, on-call sign maintenance services 2025 to 2030 project, award of contract. Item 8, initiate proceedings for fiscal year 25-26, annual update for landscape maintenance assessment district 9701, zones 1, 2, 3, and 4. Item 9, initiate proceedings for fiscal year 25-26, annual update landscape maintenance assessment districts 9801, 9802, and 0301. And item 10, the Citrus Heights Lighting Assessment District initiate proceedings for fiscal year 25-26, annual update. Item 11, Arcade Cripple Creek Trail Mariposa Extension Award of Contract for Professional Services to Kimley Horn and Associates. And item 12, Capital Replacement Fund Fleet Acquisitions.
Okay, I know that Vice Mayor Lopez Taft wants to pull number 5 for a separate vote. And then I don't want to discuss it, I just have a question on, and I think Regina can answer the question. And it's a question like I said, when I get here early, I do a lot in the back, and so this question just came up late. The half a mile from Mariposa Trail Extension, is that just for planning services, or is that for the whole, cost for the whole trail? The 800 and something thousand?
Good evening, Mayor. Leslie Bloomquist, City Engineer.
thank
Hi. Currently, the award is just for the first phase of the design and environmental documents. We do have full funding through a grant to get us all the way through construction, but the contract award tonight is just for those first few phases.
So that includes the environmental report? and
It does, yes.
Oh, okay, because I thought that was awful high for just designing, because I
Yeah.
could do a design for half that amount. Okay, so I'm not pulling the item for a separate vote, I just wanted to ask the question. Okay, and so, other than number 5, somebody want to move 6 through 12?
Move 6 through 12.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, 6 through 12. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, how about number 5? Do a roll call vote for number 5.
For the approval of minutes, Councilmember Middleton, or
Aye.
is there a
Oh, wait,
motion
we
for
need-
that?
I'll move item number 5.
I'll second.
Okay,
Perfect.
good. Now we're legal. You can vote.
So I'll do roll call. Councilmember Middleton,
Aye.
Councilmember Nelson,
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lopez Taff,
I'll abstain.
and Mayor Karpinski Costa.
Yes, thank you. Okay, that takes us to item 13.
So item 13 is, the subject is Gateway Activation Project, update and direction. The recommendation is that the city council receive an update on the Gateway Activation Project and provide direction to begin the project's environmental review and preliminary engineering.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Casey Kempinar, Community Development Director, alongside City Engineer Leslie Bloomquist and Communications Officer Marissa Brown. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to talk about this project. This project's been in the works for a while. It stemmed from a state appropriation from former Assemblymember Ken Cooley's office specific to this project to look at trail connection and a gateway to the city's northeastern corner. So the purpose tonight is to address one of the strategic objectives, which is to present the Gateway Activation Project, or GAP, to the City Council with a summary of the community feedback received thus far. And I want to reiterate, this is just thus far. This is a long-term project. This is what we heard thus far. We're hoping to get some direction tonight to continue with environmental review, but just reiterating that projects like this, there's community engagement from start to finish through environmental, through design, through construction. So that will continue throughout this process. So we will share about the project, or would like to present the recommended project. We'd like to get the council's affirmation that they're okay to move forward, and then we would start the environmental review. We do have till the spring of 2026 to complete the scope of the grant, and then we would ideally be shovel-ready for construction of the project in the future. So tonight, we're going to talk about the why behind the GAP project, go over the objectives and location, cover the existing conditions, talk about potential options to solve some of the existing conditions. We'll share some of the community feedback received thus far. We'll present the staff recommendation, and then we'll close with getting your direction. So why the GAP project? Community connection has been a major focus of this council coming out of COVID, and I think we saw a lot of the success of that through the events we've done, but also with the completion of Arcade Cripple Creek Trail. You can see photos on here. The trail's very well used, very well loved, and it's really becoming a community amenity. So expanding that and connecting more parks and more neighborhoods is a worthy goal, and contributes to the quality of life for the city. It also gives us an opportunity to leverage partnerships. This project location, I'll go over a map in a minute, is right near the Roseville city limits. And there's a regional plan to connect from that area to Folsom Lake, and then also connect to Roseville's trail network, which has about 50 miles of trail. So a lot of leveraging our network to connect to their network and vice versa. So it's a really exciting project. So there's two primary objectives. The first part, and what started this all off, was connecting the trails. So we have the Old Auburn Multi-Use Trail along Old Auburn Road. We have Archaic Cripple Creek Trail just a little bit further east and south, and then we have Roseville's Dry Creek Greenway. And so those three trails have a gap between them. So how do we connect them in a way that's safe and convenient for users to be able to connect there and to the broader region? And then looking at the roadways themselves, Old Auburn Road, Wachtel, they each have their own set of challenges and uniqueness to them. Is there a way to make them safer and address some ongoing concerns? Is there a way to address the intersections that are there? As you come in the city, there's a dual stop sign that we tend to get a lot of feedback about, and so is there a way to fix that while we're at it? And then there's an intersection, Argo and Old Auburn, which has a number of community complaints and challenges as well. So Leslie will talk a lot about that. So this shows the project location. As you can see here, northeast portion of the city, the orange represents the project limits. You can see the Old Auburn Trail along in the green here. That connects here to the Roseville city limits, and then down here to Archaic Cripple Creek Trail. So connecting those trails is the first priority is connecting those and making that a seamless network. So how do you do that? What side of the street is the trail on? Where do you cross? What are the right-of-way constraints? How do you address all that? So that's one of the objectives that we sought to solve. And then also, Old Auburn Road has significant traffic, so it's difficult to cross. There's some intersection operation challenges. And then whatever solution we come up with, we don't want to make Old Auburn, all of a sudden it's a cut through. And all of a sudden you make it like a freeway and we got a lot more people. So you got to kind of balance access with too much access, and that's something we're trying to strike with this project. Speaking of Old Auburn, it is a heavily used road. You can see here 14,000 trips per day. About 10,000 of those are going down Old Auburn and 6,000 are going down Wachtel. And on this slide, you can see this is this kind of shows the project area, and then it shows where folks that are using this are coming and going. And these percentages represent, the green arrows represent about 25% of those users. And it just shows they're coming through the city and they're exiting the city. They're not stopping in the city. And so there is some cut through traffic. About 25% is using this corridor to get from somewhere else without stopping or starting in the city. And you can see, you're all probably familiar with the vehicle queues on the AM. Eastbound traffic is backed up significantly, and in the PM, it backs up quite a bit going westbound. So those are the problems, and then now we'll start kind of going into the options and solutions. On Wachtel Way is actually an easier portion to solve for. You can see in the photo that it's a very wide right-of-way. We have way more right-of-way than the city needs for most of Wachtel. So it's relatively easy for us to construct a trail to connect from Archaic Cripple Creek Trail. The city limits actually goes down the middle of Wachtel too. So the east side of this of the road is in the unincorporated Sacramento County. So staying on the west has advantages in that we have the extra right-of-way and it's fully under our control. So you can see here on this map, north is to the right. So the Archaic Cripple Creek Trail, if you can see my cursor ends right here. Oh, you can't see the cursor? Okay, on the left side of the top screen is the end of Archaic Cripple Creek Trail, and you can follow along the road parallel with an extra right-of-way. You can see there's a number of driveway crossings along the way as you get further north, but it's relatively easy to get the trail to connect to Old Auburn Road along the west side. In talking about connecting the trails, so the other kind of component of we had to figure out is on the Old Auburn Trail, it's on the north side of Old Auburn. We know in the future on the right side is Dry Creek Greenway is going to be on the south side. So where do you safely connect and bring those trails together? So we looked at a few different options. The two options that we landed on considering and focused most of our effort on were our Argo Drive, which is an intersection Leslie's going to spend some time talking about, has some challenges for that neighborhood getting in and out. So that there's an opportunity to solve that problem as well as make that a trail connection. The other option is to cross at Wachtel Way, and that has similar improvements to connect the trail, and it will get you to the south side of the roadway. These two options have comparable costs and challenges. Argo Way is a little bit more impact on some of the existing trees along Old Auburn Road, but is a little bit cheaper, where Wachtel Way has a little bit more minor tree impacts, but is a little bit more expensive. So those are kind of the two options for crossing. And with that, I'll turn it over to Leslie to talk more about the roadway intersections.
So in addition to the trail crossing, we've heard for many years from residents in this area about the lack of pedestrian and bicycle connectivity, specifically for the neighborhood on the south side of Old Auburn. The only way in and out of this neighborhood is for all users to utilize Argo Drive. However, there's no crossing on Old Auburn Road at this location, and there's no sidewalk on Old Auburn to safely allow pedestrians to walk to one of the other safe crossings. So essentially rendering this neighborhood isolated when it comes to bicycle and pedestrian facilities. Currently, it's over 2,400 feet to the nearest signalized crossing at Twin Oaks, that's almost a half a mile, and just under 1,000 feet to the east to Walktel Way. Instead, as you can see on the photo in the upper right, people are currently running across Old Auburn Road at Argo Drive due to these lack of facilities and safe crossings. So therefore, part of the scope of the GAP project was to evaluate this and determine a safe crossing for pedestrians to access this neighborhood to the Old Auburn Trail, schools on the north side of Old Auburn, as well as to the new Arcade Cripple Creek Trail and other local amenities. However, in addition to those, other concerns have also come in from nearby residents regarding regarding Argo Drive in the past several years, specifically concerns about speeding on Old Auburn, the inability to turn left into and out of Argo Drive due to excessive queues backing up from Walktel Way, and vehicles doing donuts or burnouts in the intersection, specifically really late at night or early in the morning. So 2 intersection treatment options were evaluated for the intersection of Old Auburn and Argo, the first being a roundabout. Roundabouts inherently bring safety benefits to the intersections in which they are installed, and many of those benefits would address specific complaints that we had been hearing here, so it was kind of a natural discussion point for this intersection. First and foremost, roundabout would add pedestrian crossing at this intersection too. In fact, we'd have one on either side of the roundabout. Roundabouts lower speeds. The circular design of roundabouts forces drivers to slow down, making crashes less likely and less severe, as there's fewer conflict points, meaning there's less locations where vehicles cross paths and have the potential to collide. And then there's also reduced collision risk. Roundabouts force everyone to kind of drive in a circular nature, so you don't have the potential for those head-on right turn or left turn crashes, which are the type of crashes that typically result in really high severity or fatalities. It also provides a location for beautification and potentially integration of art and landscaping. And then roundabouts allow continuous movement, so cars can still navigate their way through the intersection after yielding. So it keeps the operations moving, which reduces delay at roundabout intersections when compared to other traffic devices. And with a roundabout at the intersection, there wouldn't be the large area of pavement, so burnouts and donuts wouldn't be possible at this intersection. However, roundabouts do take up a larger footprint than a traditional stop-controlled or signalized intersection. And as you can see here at this kind of concept, the roundabout does work, it fits, but it would require some additional right-of-way from the adjacent property owners. So we also evaluated this intersection for a signal. Unfortunately, it doesn't meet the minimum requirements for a traditional traffic signal, the red, yellow, and green, but it does meet the minimum requirements for a pedestrian hybrid beacon. This intersection, if a pedestrian hybrid beacon were to be installed, would look very similar to a signalized intersection, but it wouldn't control the vehicular movements in the same way. So the way that a pedestrian hybrid beacon, or these are sometimes called high-intensity crosswalks, or HOCs, the way that they work is essentially when there's no pedestrian there, the HOC is dark, the beacon is dark, and the intersection acts as it does today. Cars drive through it, left-turning cars would have to find the gaps on their own to turn in and out of Argo Way. But if a pedestrian comes, they push the button, the lights would start to flash yellow. They'd be followed by solid yellow lights, meaning that a red light is coming, similar to traditional traffic signals. And when the solid light turns on, the cars would be required to stop. It's at this point when the pedestrian would get the walk and don't walk and the countdown features to cross the road. Then after they've finished crossing the road, the light would start to flash red, meaning that cars can stop and proceed through the intersection if it's safe to do so and the pedestrians are no longer in the crosswalk. And then after that, it would go back to being dark until the next pedestrian comes and pushes the button.
Leslie, may I ask you a question? before I forget, since we're talking about pedestrians here for option 2, what would be, is there a signal for pedestrians for option 1, which would be the roundabout?
No, roundabout would be unsignalized. There would be an option for like a flashing yellow rectangular rapid flashing beacon, but it wouldn't provide a signalized like stop and control the vehicular movement. The benefit for pedestrians at roundabouts is they can only cross one lane of traffic at a time, and they have those splitter islands in between. So you just have to find a gap in the one direction, make it to the middle, and you find the gap in the other direction. So it does provide enhanced pedestrian protection that way.
Okay.
Do you prefer if we ask questions as you go?
Either
or
way.
wait till the- What's the difference in cost between the pedestrian hybrid beacon and the roundabout?
It's hard to say without having gotten to the detailed design, because the cost of a roundabout is really dependent on the size of the roundabout and the amount of right-of-way that we would need to take. But essentially, with the pedestrian hybrid beacon and all the enhancements that you're looking at this concept on here, it would likely be pretty comparable to the roundabout, which would be kind of like on a smaller size at this intersection.
So everybody just feel free to ask questions. Don't wait for me to see you doing, I'm reading.
Let me catch.
So, I know this is way down the road, but I would certainly like to see, in the middle of the roundabout, you have boulders here. I'd like to see something other than a boulder. Landscape, a sculpture, something that somebody couldn't climb on.
Something we considered, and I think it's a good opportunity to create the gateway. We saw it when we were in Lakewood, if you recall, there was a roundabout there that had a nice sculpture, or puzzle piece in there. It was pretty cool, so a good opportunity to incorporate art if so desired.
My comment, thank you.
So the pedestrian hybrid beacon, again, just to go back, it essentially, if there's no pedestrian there, there would really be no difference to the operations of the roadway as it is today. But it does provide that enhanced pedestrian crossing, and these types of treatments have been shown to significantly reduce pedestrian-related crashes. So when comparing the roundabout and the pedestrian hybrid beacon to each other, we can see that both will create that improved crossing condition here at Argo Way, while the roundabout option would also address the vehicular speeds and reduce potential for crash severity. It also has greater right-of-way needs. During the public outreach phase, which Marissa will be talking about in more depth in a few slides, we also heard from some residents that they continue to have concerns about roundabouts in general. And we also heard similar concerns about pedestrian hybrid beacons, neither of which are really prevalent or located in Citrus Heights. But one item to mention here is that during the public outreach, one comment that we are hearing more often than we have in the past is that some residents are finding they're experiencing roundabouts on a more regular basis, and having positive experiences with those, and so we are hearing that more often. The city of Rockland, the city of Lincoln have roundabouts now. Folsom has a roundabouts first policy. So if roundabouts aren't already in everyone's kind of daily or weekly travel patterns, they likely will be here in the near future as more of them are going to start being constructed. So moving on from Argo to the eastern end of the corridor, you might be familiar with the dual always stops at Wachtel and Oakwood Hills Linda Creek Court. These intersections were kind of evaluated together due to their close physical proximity, as any treatment selected at one intersection would have an impact on the operations of the other. So we looked at keeping it as is, maintaining the 2 stop signs, putting a roundabout at Wachtel and keeping the stop sign at Oakwood Hills Linda Creek Court, doing roundabouts at both intersections, and the other last alternative was a traffic signal at Wachtel and maintaining the always stop at Linda Creek Oakwood Hills. So first, the existing conditions. This is what Wachtel Way looks like today. Casey's going to play some simulation of the existing conditions in both the AM and PM peak periods. Hopefully, this isn't too difficult for everyone to see. And if you drive through this intersection, you're likely familiar, but what this shows is that there's really long queues in the eastbound direction in the morning and really long queues in the westbound direction in the afternoon. And during the heaviest of times, that eastbound queue spills back sometimes all the way to Big Oaks Mobile Home in the eastbound direction, and that westbound queue extends all the way up and around the curve towards Kirby. So starting at Walktel Way, the first alternative that I mentioned was a roundabout. So a roundabout at this location would have the same benefits as I described for the roundabout at Argo. It would reduce vehicular travel speeds, enhance the pedestrian crossings, enhance operations, has that potential for beautification and art. I think we have boulders shown in this one too in the concept, but can definitely modify that. And also has reduced crash potential and crash severity. But in addition to the benefits that were previously discussed, because this would be replacing an existing always stop, there's additional benefits such as a reduction in gas consumption and wear and tear on personal vehicles, as well as noise. So we would have less of the braking and acceleration at this intersection that we do currently. However, similar to Argo, additional right-of-way would be needed from the adjacent property owners in order to make this work.
So as a side note, I used to ride my bike out there, this is years ago. Used to ride my bike at that corner. It was really scary. Watchdale and Auburn was one that was like, okay. Did it a couple times, and I'm like, I'm done. Not gonna, it's too risky.
I am curious about the amount of private property that would need to go towards this project. Do we have any slides on that?
We have just the preliminary designs at this point. That'll be the next step, is looking a little bit more further into that. We want to make sure, or get the temperature and see if roundabouts are something we want to explore before we get spending too much money doing more detailed design.
Okay, copy.
So here are the micro-simulation models for the alternatives with the roundabout at Walktel. It also, in this simulation, assumes the second roundabout at Oakwood Hills Linda Creek Court. But what you won't see on the screen is those lengthy queues. So the roundabouts are allowing the vehicles to pass through without stopping at a reduced speed, and it also allows multiple cars to be in the intersection at the same time, so they can operationally accommodate many more vehicles per hour, which is why there's significantly less queuing when these roundabouts are installed here. So the next alternative is the traffic signal at Walktel. This design would also bring with it enhanced pedestrian crossings. As we're really familiar with these, this would be your standard traffic signal that we have at all of our other signalized intersections in the city. This alternative would also increase the number of vehicles that could pass through the intersection on an hourly basis when compared to the existing always stop control. However, it would have limited impact on the vehicular speeds, because if the light is green when the car approaches, they won't need to slow at all and can just continue straight through the intersection. And if they're going through the Walktel Way intersection at a higher speed, it might make left turns in and out of Oakwood Hills. The portion of Oakwood Hills shown here on the screen a little bit more difficult, as they'll have to navigate their left turns through gaps of higher speeding cars. And also, the angle of this intersection does not lend itself to a traditional 90-degree left turn from Walktel onto Old Auburn, which could also pose additional safety concerns. You may notice that this intersection looks very similar to another intersection that we have just down the road on Old Auburn Road, where we've been spending a lot of time trying to improve traffic safety and operations. However, from the simulation of this alternative, you can see that this would also significantly reduce queuing on Old Auburn and provide those enhanced pedestrian crossings. So when we compare the three alternatives for Walktel, which is the existing stop sign and then the roundabout and the traffic signal, you see that maintaining the status quo, the always stop, is the least costly, but it will continue to require vehicles to stop. That does meter cars as they come into Citrus Heights, and this alternative also has the lowest amount of right-of-way needs and tree impacts. However, it would maintain those long queues. It would continue those noise impacts from the braking and the acceleration, and ongoing concerns and complaints from drivers about the dual stop signs would remain. The roundabout has many pros, but also has right-of-way impacts to the adjacent properties. It does have tree impacts and greater grading and retaining wall needs. And we also hear concerns, as mentioned previously, from some residents just about their general thoughts on roundabouts. The signal option has limited right-of-way impacts, it has reduced tree impacts, and creates an enhanced pedestrian crossing, but it wouldn't reduce speeds, at least not as much as when compared to the roundabout option. And it has higher operational costs for ongoing electricity and maintenance after construction. We would still have some noise impacts because cars would have to stop for red lights, so we'd still hear the braking and acceleration during those phases. And there are those operational concerns due to the acute angle of the intersection or the skewed nature of how they meet.
I just want to make a quick comment here, because I live in the area. I know that if there was a signal there that allowed somebody to just keep driving, Old Auburn is used as a raceway. We have several people who race every night at 10 o'clock. And I'm afraid that would make it even more so, because it would probably be more green at night. So just something to consider, because there's lots of safety concerns with allowing faster speeds down Old Auburn.
So next, I'm going to talk about the Oakwood Hills Linda Creek Court intersection, and we did look at two alternatives for this intersection. The first being to keep it as an always stop controlled as it is currently, and the second, roundabout. As a note, we also did look at a traffic signal here, but it doesn't meet the minimum requirements to warrant a traffic signal. And so we kind of eliminated that alternative early on during the analysis because it wouldn't be eligible for grant funds, and operationally, it's not the best for the intersection. So comparing these two alternatives, you see that the stop sign would meter traffic as it comes into the city, but the roundabout would allow traffic to continue to flow at a reduced speed. The roundabout will enhance the pedestrian crossings as well as have the opportunity for art or a gateway feature, as this is the entry point to Citrus Heights from Roseville. Both have minor right-of-way impacts, but the roundabout would have additional impacts on the trees when compared to the existing condition and would require additional grading and retaining walls. So now we'll get into the really technical traffic engineering stuff. So this is where I get to geek out a little bit. One major component of any traffic analysis is the level of service review. Level of service is simply a qualitative measure used to evaluate performance of an intersection. It uses the average delay to determine the level of service. So a lot of cars will travel through the intersection on a daily basis or during a certain peak period, and they'll all experience a certain amount of delay. So the average amount of delay that each car experiences is calculated, and then it is summed up and assigned a letter grade, A through F. And this, you can also get a letter E in this kind of grading system here. So this table shows how the letters are assigned to the delay experienced, and it's different whether that intersection is signalized or unsignalized. So our traffic engineering team has calculated the average delay for each intersection for the various alternatives. So on that table on the previous screen, if it was less than 10 seconds of delay, it would be given a LOS-A. For an unsignalized intersection, which would be the always stop or the roundabout intersections, if it has more than 50 seconds of delay, it would be given an LOS of F. But F does not necessarily mean fail. It just means a significant amount of congestion and queuing. It's not going to not work. Cars will still be able to get through the intersection. In fact, it operates at an LOS today in the existing conditions, which is shown on the next slide. So there's a lot of information here. I'm going to walk you through some of the highlights. So for the existing alternative, which is the first line you see under alternative, a stop sign at Wachtel and a stop sign at Oakwood Hills, you see that the average vehicle experiences 56 seconds of delay in the AM peak with the LOS of F, and in the PM peak, also an LOS of F. And we know that this makes sense because we drive the intersection, there's a really long queues, there's a lot of congestion, there's a lot of delay, which is why we're looking at this to begin with. But you may also notice on this table when we look at the roundabout at Wachtel, which is alternative 1, that the AM peak, the delay increases significantly with the roundabout. And that's because of the way that it operates with the stop sign at Oakwood Hill. So the two of those together increases delay operationally as a unit. And so you'll see that it still remains an LOSF with actually increased delay. Alternative 3, which is the traffic signal and the stop sign combo, does reduce delay, but at both intersections, they're still operating in LOS D or E. So it's getting better, but it's still at a D or an E. And then lastly, the middle of the table, alternative 2, which is the roundabout, you'll see that essentially the delay goes away. There's 13 seconds max of average delay at the Wachtel intersection, and the intersections would be operating at an LOS A or B at both of these with the double roundabout.
So, as I mentioned earlier, we've been doing a lot of outreach in relation to this project. So I asked Marissa to kind of cover what we've heard so far.
Hello, City Council. Looking forward to sharing with you some of our public outreach that's been in part of this project today. So first and foremost, we had a community workshop that was held on April 29th. We had about 50 attendees. People from our project team all were there to answer questions, and this was held in the area that this project will affect. So we had people who are going to be a part of this project from start to finish in the room, getting to hear about the options that you heard about today, as well as provide their feedback and input on what they thought. So this was a great community workshop. This is one of 2 that will be held throughout the duration of this project. And we also had a pop-up event. So maybe you unfortunately didn't hear about the workshop. Don't worry about it. We're going to come to where you are. So our team was out on the Old Auburn Multi-Use Trail finding people who wanted to hear about this project. So they got to also get the spiel and learn about the options and availabilities to them and sign up for additional insights and updates on this project too. So meeting the community where they are along the trail, which is a huge factor of this project, which is great. For anybody who was not on the trail or in person at our community workshop, we did have a chance to share their feedback via an online survey. This survey was sent out via our social media channels, our website, and our e-newsletter and a interest list gathered from the workshop and pop-up events as well. So you can see we included some of the questions here. The traffic goals that are, the project goals that are most important are increasing safety, trail connectivity. So 2 things that are incredibly important to our city teams is also the shared concerns of our residents. And we also asked them their thoughts on some of the specific findings that we're treatment options that we're looking to do. While nothing was specifically selected or overwhelmingly chosen for the Argo Drive intersection, we did see that roundabouts were selected as a better option for the Wachtel intersection. And we did have about 60 respondents for the survey online, which is great. We love to see that. So generally, we had, what we saw was the community priorities are improved safety, our trail connection, so connecting those trails, and slowing down traffic, like Vice Mayor mentioned, is some of that area. People are generally excited about this project. They're looking forward to seeing improvements in this space, and I think that people who are familiar with this corridor, they know that the improvements are a great solution towards the problems that they hear about and know about. Roundabouts are still polarizing. Nobody has told us one way or another and decided for us, but we're hoping that we can educate and inform people on whichever option is selected. And yeah, there's no clear preference or option. We do plan to continue our public outreach throughout the duration of this project through the environmental review and through the additional phases, not only with residents living in the area, but obviously with property owners who may be impacted and any community member who might be traveling on this road or on our trail. That doesn't just include Citrus Heights residents. With Roseville neighboring it, we're ensuring that our communications is also reaching out to a variety of people. If you do have questions, you can visit citrusheights.net/gap, and you can also sign up for our updates on this website as well. Any questions on public outreach or additional comments?
Thanks, Marissa.
Thank you.
So coming up with a recommendation, as you saw, there was not necessarily a clear leader in the community. There were lots of solutions and lots of options. So we took what we heard from the community, and we took our professional judgment and engineering know-how and looked at what would make the most sense, trying to achieve most of those project objectives with trail connectivity and solving for some of those intersection challenges. So that resulted in the best solution would be 3 roundabout approach with a trail crossing at Argo Way. So you can see that on the screen here, just kind of mapped out what that would look like. Some of the pros, as Leslie highlighted, this option has the best level of service improvement out of all the options. The roundabout option gets to you at level of service A and B. That will address the queuing that we frequently hear concerns about. It actually reduces speeds for drivers, so the speeding that the Vice Mayor talked about, the runway, you can't really speed through a roundabout very well, so that definitely slows people down. Improved bike safety is paramount, creating a safer condition to cross. As Leslie covered, the divider islands and the roundabouts give a greater opportunity for protection for people and less directions of traffic to worry about. As Councilmember Schaefer alluded to, there's opportunity for gateway treatments and art or similar treatments in roundabouts to really say, hey, you're coming to Citrus Heights, this is going to be something cool. This approach has lower maintenance costs as compared to new signalized intersections. The roundabouts are very low maintenance comparatively. And then we know that there's a reduced crash severity associated with collisions that do happen in roundabouts as compared to signalized intersections. There are some cons, as we've covered. There are some community concerns about roundabouts, so throwing 3 in there is a bold move, but we think it's the right move given the circumstances out there. There will be some right-of-way impacts associated with the project, and there will be some tree impacts that we would have to mitigate. So in terms of timeline, as I mentioned, this is a grant-funded project. The goal of the grant is to get us to a shovel-ready project, which makes us really competitive for grant funding. So in order to do that, we need to do the preliminary engineering and environmental, and that's the phase we're in right now. And so we're ready to start the environmental document, but we wanted to make sure we're on the right track before we do that. So that's the point of tonight's meeting. That environmental document needs to be done in the spring. We need to close out this grant, and then in the springtime, then we can move forward to the grant acquisition for construction. Ideally, we'd be applying for grants in 2027, and if we're successful, we'd be able to start construction in 2028. So a little bit of a horizon, but this is kind of the ideal situation, depending on funding outcomes would work. So tonight, invite the council to hear any public comment. We did invite and let folks know that are on our interest list that this hearing was going to be happening tonight. Come hear about it. But also just at the end of tonight, we'd like to know that, hey, we were going the right direction. Start the environmental review so you can make sure, so we can keep on track with the grant. And with that, we're here for any questions.
Any questions?
I might have some after I hear public comment.
Me too. Let's do, is there public comment?
I do not have any speaker cards for this item.
Is there
unless
anybody in
there's
the
any.
audience that wants to make public comment? David? Just make sure David gets in your list, okay?
I'm a civil engineer by education and a traffic engineer by specialty. The thing about roundabouts, you're taught the person on the right has the right of way, and a roundabout is the person on the left that has the right of way. That's why people get confused in roundabouts.
Is there any other public comment? I have a question before I open up for the rest of council. I'm trying to picture the roundabout as a part of the trail connectivity. So where's the trail in relationship? I mean, people doing their half jumps across the street to the center of the roundabout? I mean, how are they, what's that relationship to the trail? That's the question.
So in this recommended concept, the Old Auburn Trail on the north end, you would continue that over to Argo Way, and then one of those crossings across Old Auburn Road at that roundabout would be the trail crossing. And then the trail would continue on the south side of Old Auburn Road over to City of Roseville and connect to the Dry Creek Greenway. And then the Arcade Cripple Creek Trail would come up the west side of,
So south of Argo, on the south side of Old Auburn, we're headed east, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're going along there, and then you run up to the Watchtel roundabout?
Correct.
And what do you do when you get there?
You would continue across Walktail Way at one of the crosswalks.
So
on-
walk across the roundabout.
Yes.
I'm trying to, those- I saw that.
Graphic where the trail is, comes in.
I just wondered if I had 2 feet, what I was doing. So the 2 feet says,
So here's the Walktail roundabout concept. So you can see the trail comes on the south side of Old Auburn to the Walktail roundabout from the left side of the screen. So you'd kind of wrap around the corner there. You'd cross in the marked crosswalk, across Walktail Way, and then you would continue down Old Auburn Road to the right side of the screen.
oh, let's just hope people are slow enough. That's still, okay.
And then
So
the
when-
Arcade Cripple Creek Trail would be, that's what's shown here on the bottom of the screen. It would come up and then utilize that same crosswalk
Cross
across
back over
Walktail.
to the north side.
Yeah.
So, and what's the one onto the west side? That's a way they could cross over to,
If-
Crossover.
If they want to travel to the north side of the intersection, maybe they,
that's Argo, right there?
maybe they live on Oakwood Hills Drive, they can utilize that crosswalk.
Okay. So if you have a roundabout, people don't have to stop at all. That's why you get a LOS of A.
Correct. They do have to yield for pedestrians in the crosswalk, which may require them to stop and wait,
We
or
hope- we
to
hope
cars
they
that are
do.
in the roundabout, yes.
It may require, yeah, we hope they do, so, all right. All right, questions, council members? Questions?
Just comments.
Okay, comments? Let's start with comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, I appreciate, at least in the preliminary design of the roundabouts here that were shown, that it's just one lane. I know the roundabouts in Rockland can get kind of confusing because they have 2 lanes all of a sudden, but there's not really enough room to move over. So you end up just driving kind of in the middle of it anyway, at least in my experience. And it seems like roundabouts are the way to go, which is very exciting. I do recognize the cons, and still the bit about the private property gives me pause, so I'm curious about how that is going to go. But I do appreciate that it's going to move people through more safely and more quickly. So that sounds like a success.
I just have a comment. I also really like the roundabout piece, the right-of-way, since I'm pretty familiar with this area. I think that I've seen areas where it's certainly a lot more impactful as far as having to take public right-of-way. I think this is relatively minimal. It's, you know, I don't like taking people's property, but in this case, I think for the greater good, for putting this roundabout, for improving safety, for improving service, I think this has more pros about it than cons.
Dang it, y'all took all my words. Absolutely, I think that roundabouts would be very helpful. I was kind of on the fence, and I was thinking, oh, maybe, you know, a signalized kind of intersection of some sort. But then I just think about when, you know, folks are going up and down Sunrise, you know, they're trying to beat that light, right? They'll do whatever it takes. They'll blow through a yellow light that's like right on the tail end. So definitely roundabouts will help to calm things down, and maybe as folks are enjoying the trail and stuff, it'll have folks to pay more attention to what's going on around them.
So I attended the April 29th community meeting, and I thought that was very well done. I really think that a lot of clarity was brought during that meeting, and your team did such a good job presenting all of the options and allowing interaction with the residents. And I'm sure that happened with the follow-up pop-up. Now, I'm a huge fan of roundabouts because the impact on the residents along that who will be affected by a roundabout being put in are now not being affected by, you know, congestion, traffic congestion, which I think affects them much more than potentially having to, you know, give up a small portion of their property for this project. So for that, I think they will see the higher benefit of keeping traffic moving in that area, because it really is, I mean, when you're sitting there, it's just, you know, fumes are building and noise and things like that. People get upset in that time frame, and I think this will do a lot to ease the traffic into Citrus Heights and out of Citrus Heights. So I think you've done a great job. Thank you.
Well, when we all are on the same page, we're always on the same page. We're a good council. So it makes sense to put it here, but, you know, it's being a fan of roundabouts, but look at the one that went on Woodmore Oaks. That was a disaster. So it does depend on where you put it, and we have to go back and remove it because it was in the wrong place. So, but this looks like it's in the right place because that second stop sign is it's horrible. It's like you sit there and there's nobody, what am I stopping for? And then I see people that aren't stopping at all. So I think the two roundabouts there make sense. And I'm just hoping that we don't have to, you know, hurt too many trees to do it. But I think that if we're going to start environmental review, and then what are you going to do with the Arco end? You're going to, because it looked like a 50-50. So we're going to go back with some more public comment?
Well, I think the benefits of the roundabout outweigh the hawk in general. It's a safer environment, and I think it is, since prices are comparable, we're recommending that the roundabout is the better of those two alternatives, since it was split by the community.
Okay. I think Vice Mayor has another question or comment.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, for talking about the last roundabout we attempted in this area, because I believe the reason why it had to be removed were because of trucks. And so that is a question that brought to mind here is, did we analyze any large trucks that may be utilizing this area? How would these roundabouts, now that there's three, how would that affect that particular traffic? Or are those heavy trucks not allowed? Because I don't think there's
The Woodmore Oaks one had bulb outs on the corners for pedestrians. They had bulb outs. It wasn't just going around in a circle.
Yeah.
They had actual cement things that came out of the sides that prevented you from going around the circle.
Yeah, so, you know, my main concern is what do we do about trucks that would be utilizing the same space?
So we did look at these concepts and ran truck turning templates on them. They will accommodate large school buses, which is likely the largest vehicle that will traverse these. However, we also looked at larger, like, delivery trucks in case our truck routes ever change in the future, or if we do get transit on Old Auburn Road again one day, it can accommodate all of those vehicles.
Okay, moving trucks,
Correct.
No bulb outs.
really big ones, okay.
No
Thank
bulb
you.
outs?
There are no bulb outs included in this concept.
That's what, that kind of
We
ruined
learned
it.
something.
That was bad. I go there all the time. Okay, so I guess next is to direct staff to begin environmental review for the project.
I think we have affirmation, so thank you for your time.
Okay,
Great job, thank you.
thank you so much. And thank you, Marissa, for your, you know, your output, your input, whatever. Anytime. Okay. Before we move on to department reports, I want to recognize two people. One is our young man sitting there, Boy Scout. Can you tell us where you're a scout from?
Come on up.
Can you come to the microphone, introduce yourself? We'd love to meet you.
My name is Luke, and I am from Troop 144 in Orangevale.
Well, welcome, Luke.
Welcome here, yeah, it's good.
Are you working on a project?
Yes, I'm here to take notes for the Communications Merit Badge.
Have you got all the notes you need, or do you need some more?
I think I'm good for now.
You good?
How about a smile? Just a little, there you go. Great job, Luke.
Thank you. And the other recognition is I want to give kudos to our General Services Director, Regina Cave. I'm a TNT salesperson, and they called me today to tell me how awesome you are with helping them locate their stand on Auburn Boulevard despite all the construction going on over there, that she answers her phone herself, she goes on emails, no delays, she's nice, she's thorough, he said the word awesome, and I says, yes, she's awesome. So thank you so much, Regina. And then I told him all of our staff is awesome, so anyways, and welcome, Luke. What else we got? Any department reports?
So we do not have any department reports, but we do have city manager updates.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Ash Finney, your city manager here, and great to hear those kudos for the team. Yeah, definitely put a lot of effort into improving the quality of life here in the city, and very responsive customer service is one of our core values, so. Today, there was an oath of office that was administered here in this chamber by our police chief, Chief Alex Turcotte, and it was a fantastic ceremony. Great to participate and be part of that. Full room, full of a lot of warmth and a lot of support. You can see we had our police sergeant, Carrie Foote, who was previously a police officer, has now been promoted to police sergeant. We also have a number of new police officers, one that actually returned also to Citrus Heights, who previously was a police officer here as well. And then we also have our code enforcement officer and administrative assistant that joined the team too. So you see all their names listed there. We're very excited to have them be part of the team and have their talents contribute to serving the community.
Does this bring us up to our officer numbers that we were aiming for?
We are at what you would normally expect for relative to any vacancies. We're at what we would call like kind of a normal churn.
Okay.
And you can see from a staffing perspective with all the improvements in the quality of life that we see around here in the community, and the specialty units that Chief Turcotte's been able to work with his command staff to staff those, to ensure that those units that really make a difference in the everyday public safety feelings that the community feels are present in the community, and, you know, understand that charge around quality of life, in addition to all the protection that happens on the crime that, thank goodness, many of us don't ever see, but they keep a lid on, so. We also, speaking of our police department, there was a law enforcement torch run, and this was in support of Special Olympics, which is a cause that's near and dear to many, including our police department. And you can see our SWAT team and Chief Turcotte and the commanders participated with other law enforcement officers to carry the flame of hope. And that's a symbol for unity, strength, and support for the summer games of June 27th to June 29th, and those will be held at Santa Clara University. So that's for the Special Olympics. Some great picks there, too.
It's my alma mater.
And then we heard about this this evening. I can tell there's a lot of excitement within the community. Not only is Director Cave working to locate fireworks stands for people where there's construction activity, her and her team have also been working with our larger team on a fantastic celebration for Stars and Stripes that will be this Saturday, June 28th, from 6 to 10 p.m. at Van Maren Park. It's a fantastic event. Always have great reviews on that. People have so much fun. So if you've never been out to Stars and Stripes, I highly encourage you to get there. If you have been in the past, please come back. But there'll be live music, food trucks, Kids Zone just keeps getting better and better, and a fantastic fireworks show. It is free, and it's something that the community has really embraced. So if you want to learn more about it, you can see we have citrusheights.net/stars, and you can learn more about the event. And this was on the mailer
It's not going to
as
be
well.
that hot either. It's going to be nice.
The first year we did this, it was 110 degrees.
I know.
And everyone still had a blast. I think last year had to be 100, now it's like 91. Bring a sweater. And that concludes my update.
And there are mosquito wipes. They dumped them off.
Absolutely there are.
Plenty of them.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
That it? Next item, please.
The next item is items requested by council members or future agenda items.
Now, other than getting the list of the fire things, I just, okay. Other than that, we're done. Adjourned. Thank you for coming.